This is Pastor Craig from Lighthouse Community Church, and I am coming to you on an odd day. It's not a Sunday, it's a Monday today. But after my lesson yesterday, where we were talking about Holy Week, we talked about the first statement Jesus made from the cross. I thought, you know what, I'm going to see if I can experiment a little bit with the technology around me and maybe do a 10 or 15 minute short video every night during Holy Week, taking a look at all 7 of the statements that Christ made from the cross. So I hope you'll bear with me. We'll experiment a little bit, see how this works out. And I just want to thank you for joining me, all those of you that are coming here today. One thing, just don't forget, we will be having services over the air again next Sunday. Pastor Kevin will be preaching the Easter service, and I do believe that we're planning a communion special for Friday. Not exactly sure what that is right now, but I think you'll want to be involved with it when we set it up. So listen to Kevin, look to the website to find out more information about what we're planning on doing. All right. Well, tonight we are taking a look at the second statement of Jesus from the cross. Yesterday we looked at the first one where he was speaking to the Father, saying, "Father, forgive them. They know not what they do." Today we are reversing the outlook, and he is speaking to one individual and one individual alone. He's speaking to one of the thieves on the cross that is beside him. Let me set the scene for you by reading the story about this from the book of Luke, chapter 35, and we'll start at verse 35. "And the people stood by watching, but the rulers scoffed at him, saying, 'He saved others, let him save himself, if he is the Christ of God, his chosen one.' The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine, and saying, 'If you are the King of the Jews, save yourself.' There was also an inscription over him, 'This is the King of the Jews.' One of the criminals who were hanged railed at him, saying, 'Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us.' But the other rebuked him, saying, 'Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation, and we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due reward of our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong.' And he said, 'Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.' And he said to him, 'Truly, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise.'" And as we start off thinking about this, doing a little bit of a devotional thought, I want you to notice, as I said yesterday, Jesus aimed his words at the Father. Indeed, he started out saying, "Father, forgive them." Today, it's just exactly the opposite. He's speaking not to everyone. He's speaking to an individual. When he said those words, "Father, forgive them, they know not what they do," he wasn't just speaking to the group of soldiers like we might have thought that were at his feet, who had just crucified him. He was speaking to all those that were watching the crucifixion, and indeed, quite literally, everyone, both there and not there, including us. Today, his focus shifts entirely. Indeed, you see him offering mercy just as he was interceding for mercy yesterday. But in this time, we have a real clear life example for him of what he was trying to do. Let's take a look at the situation. As we read that passage from Luke, you'll notice that Luke picked out a number of different groups who were speaking against the Lord. He talked about the soldiers and how they were mocking Jesus with the sign over his head that said the King of the Jews. They had crucified him as a criminal. And as far as they were concerned, this was just mockery that was going on. And they had mocked him earlier when they had put a crown of thorns on him, when they had wrapped him in a purple robe. And when they had given him a reed as a scepter. They were mocking him and who he said he was, or who people said he was. But then too, we had the rulers there, and they also were railing against Christ. They were saying, "If you're the Christ, save yourself. If you are who you say you are, then you saved others. Can you not save yourself?" So they were looking at him, and they were seeing a blasphemer being put to death, as we said yesterday. And they continued their mockery, very specifically, denying quite literally that he was the Christ, denying that he could save himself. So they were mocking him, the rulers that were there. And then we have the thief that was on the other cross. There were 2 thieves that were crucified beside him. And he too, even though he was on a cross suffering the same pain and the same penalty as Jesus, was mocking at him, was railing against him. What does he say to him? He says to him, "Are you not the Christ? Can you not save us and yourself?" And looking at that and railing against him. And indeed, the others that were there were many people that were around him. They weren't mocking with words. They just simply stayed silent. They listened to the mockery. They raised no objection. They didn't say anything was wrong. They simply sat silently, watching what was going on. And indeed, ultimately, it takes the thief himself to be the one who steps up and who quite literally defends Christ with his voice from his cross. Because what do we have there? We have the thief on the cross saying to the other thief, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sense of condemnation, and we indeed justly, for we're receiving the just reward of our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong." Let me read to you another passage of Scripture that deals with this situation. This comes from the account from Matthew in chapter 27 and verses 38 to 43. Matthew writes the words, Then two robbers were crucified with him, one on the right and one on the left. And those who passed by derided him, wagging their heads and saying, "You who would destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." So also the chief priests with the scribes and elders mocked him, saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now if he desires him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" And the robbers who were crucified with him also reviled him in the same way. And what we see here is a real-time picture of what Jesus was going through on the cross. But we also see here is another fulfillment of prophecy coming out of the book of Psalms, chapter 22 and verse 7, where it said people would wag their heads at him as they went by. And that's exactly what they were doing. But now, think about the words that thief who interceded for him had to say. The only one who would raise his voice in defense of the Christ, not a ruler, not a soldier, not the people standing by, not even the other thief on the cross, but only him. And why does he do it? And it's, first of all, a very simple reason that John Piper points out to us. He points out that this thief on the cross was not sucked in by the reviling that the others were doing. He was one who not only wasn't willing to revile God, wasn't willing to revile Christ, but he feared him. Do you not fear God? Because all of those that were down there, do you believe those rulers who had put him on the cross with their words and mocked him now feared God? I don't. I think they thought they were on God's side and doing what they did. Do you think those soldiers, do you think they feared God? I don't think so. They thought this was just another criminal on the cross. And the people standing silently, did they fear God? I don't think so, because they were standing silently. They would not mock, perhaps, but neither would they raise their voices. Neither would they support him. And the other thief, one who it's rightly pointed out, was a criminal who deserved his sentence. He mocked also. You think he feared God? I don't think so. I think that the center portion of the statement that we read today comes from the thief, where he says, "Do you not fear God?" How many people are there out there today who don't fear God, who are able to mock because they don't think anything will happen, who mock even up to the point of death, like the thief on the cross, because they don't fear God? And yet the other thief, this one, knew God, and not only knew him, but feared him. And the second thing we see from him that Piper points out is that this thief is the first to admit that he was wrong, that what he did was a crime, that he had committed sin, he had done wrong. He was there, and he knew he was there for a reason, and he admitted that it was right that he be there. Because that's the third thing that we see. He not only admits that he was wrong, but he willingly says that he deserves precisely what it is that is happening to him. What does he say? You are under the same sentence of condemnation, and we, meaning he and the other thief, he joins himself with him. We, indeed justly, for we're receiving the due reward of our sins. You see, he recognizes that not only did he do something wrong, but that he deserved to be punished for what he had done. All of those things are important steps in coming and fearing God, because if we realize that, then when we fear him, we can come to him. Because what he does then is he acknowledges Jesus' righteousness. This man has done no wrong. He notices, he knows that, he sees that, and he says that. What a blessing from him. He recognizes it. And then he not only recognizing that Jesus is an innocent man, but he also recognizes this. He recognizes that Jesus is no man, but that he's a king. What does he say? He says to him, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. It's only kings that have kingdoms. And he knows that he's going to die on that cross the same as Jesus is. So he knows the kingdom that he's asking to be allowed into is the kingdom of heaven. He's asking to be allowed into paradise with Jesus. He's asking him to have mercy on him in spite of the fact he doesn't deserve it. He recognizes a king, and he comes and he seeks his mercy. And that's the next thing that he ultimately does. He calls upon Jesus' mercy because he knows ultimately by grace that this is the Son of God, that this is Jesus, the Messiah, that this is the King. This is the one who might be on a cross now, reviled by everyone around him, but who holds the keys to paradise. And he comes to him, not demanding entry like the other thief, not demanding to be saved like the other thief, but asking for mercy that he knew he didn't deserve, but he knew Christ could offer and would offer. What a blessing we see there. And that leads us to the words that Jesus says to him. And he says them to him alone. His focus is not on those around him, to yell back at them, to revile them in return. It's not on the soldiers, the rulers. It's not on the people. It's not even on the other thief. But it's on this one. And he said to him, truly I say to you today, you will be with me in paradise. He extends his grace and his mercy to this man, the individual. What does this say about Christ? It tells us that even in the midst of the greatest pain, the greatest torment of his life, even when he's already started going to the Father, seeking solace there, Father, forgive them. Even when he's going to the Father and seeking him, he still has time to hear the cries of someone in need. He still has the time to hear the voice of someone pleading for undeserved mercy. And that's what he gives him. He gives him that mercy. He tells him that this day you will be with me in paradise. What words those are. What a blessing to that one person. But it reminds us also, too, when we look upon the cross. Yesterday, we talked about how in Stuart Townend's hymn, The Shame That I Heard My Voice Among the Mockers. Today, how about we raise our voice with a signal thief and say to Jesus, Father, forgive me. Say to Jesus, mercy, Lord. And I ask him to welcome us into paradise. Well, I hope you enjoyed our little devotion today. I am planning on continuing them. I will put up another one, assuming I can get the technology straight tomorrow. We will take a look at the third statement of Jesus from the cross. And until then, I just pray all of you will stay healthy and stay blessed. Thanks for watching with me.